Let's talk about a few athletes you may be familiar with who have been public about their mental health. First, Michael Phelps, Olympic swimmer. You probably know that he has had some issues with marijuana use, and he's quoted as saying, "I remember sitting in my room for 4 or 5 days, not wanting to be alive, not talking to anybody. That was a struggle for me. I reached that point where I finally realized I couldn't do it alone." This is Michael Phelps speaking out about his own mental health. And as you know, he's an Olympic swimmer, but beyond that, in his personal life, he has dealt with some ups and downs. He's spoken out about his mental health in the past, and he continues to do so today. So he's definitely a good model for athletes embracing their mental health, not just their physical health. Next, we have Oscar De La Hoya. He is a boxer, a retired boxer, I should say, and he's quoted as saying, "This is the biggest fight of my life. I could put all my opponents in one ring and battle all of them, but this monster is going to be the toughest fight of my life." Again, this is Oscar De La Hoya, a retired professional boxer, speaking out about his own mental health. He's dealt with some issues with mental health as well. There have been public scrutiny in regards to his sexual orientation, sexual preferences as well. There's no doubt that it's very difficult to be in the public eye, especially if in any sort of way you don't fit one of the societal norms that are out there. It's clear that you'll be scrutinized for it. Allen Iverson, the answer, one of my personal favorite basketball players. He's quoted as saying, "A negative Allen Iverson story is the greatest Allen Iverson story for some reason." So here is Allen Iverson, pro basketball player, shoe-in Hall of Famer, one of the quickest, one of the smallest basketball players in NBA history. And he's here talking about his own mental health and the idea that the way that he feels is that people want him to be unsuccessful because that's what society wants to see. And clearly he feels that. Now, whether or not that's true, it's up for debate. I mean, different people react differently. Of course, I personally, with Allen Iverson being one of my favorite basketball players, I want to see him succeed. But I've also seen people, jump at the chance to talk negatively about AI, about the answer, Allen Iverson, just because of the fact that he is an easy target, the way that he dresses, the way that he speaks. It's just, people see him as an easy target for negativity. And obviously, Allen Iverson is a human being, just like all athletes are human beings. And he's picked up on the fact that so many people want him to be unsuccessful, to fail. And in some ways it's driven him, of course, but obviously based on this quote, it's still bothering him and it's still something that he's aware of. Next, we have Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, wrestler, movie star, former Miami Hurricane football player. I think he played defensive tackle. You definitely know who Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is. So he's quoted as saying, "I found that with depression, one of the most important things you could realize is that you're not alone. You're not the first to go through it. I wish I had someone at the time who could just pull me aside and say, 'Hey, it's going to be okay.'" So here's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He's big, he's strong, he's muscular, he's famous, he's just popular in every kind of way. He's intelligent, he's well-spoken. It'd be hard-pressed to find anything negative to say about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, yet here he is speaking out about his own experience with depression. So the idea that only those who have experienced negative things in their lives, and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has experienced plenty of negativity in his life as well, but this is a more recent quote. The idea that depression is something that aligns itself with people who are experiencing something or are in negative circumstances, that is not always true. I mean, it could be true, but you can be very affluent, you can be very successful, you can be very popular, and still find yourself dealing with mental health issues, not just depression, of course, but there are a myriad of other mental health issues that you can be experiencing. And, being in the public eye sometimes means that it's even more so the case because there is no such thing as privacy. I mean, I imagine that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, if he were to go to your local grocery store, even if he was covered up in a hoodie and things like that, you'd be able to pick him out because he is so big and he's so, muscular, like even covered up, you'd be able to sort of like wonder who he is. And then, obviously once you see his face. So there's no such thing as privacy. And many of us, we deal with a lot of things privately. And we go through a lot of things privately, and then we come out better for it. So this way, when we enter back into the public arena, no one knows what we've dealt with in the dark before we get into the light. What happens when the light is on you all the time? You don't get a chance to have a private life. You don't get a chance to deal with things, whether it's internal or external, with your family, with your friends. You don't get a chance to do that without being in the light, which can obviously lead to several kinds of mental health issues. Next, we have Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck recently retired, quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. He's quoted as saying, "I was a sad, miserable human. I was not nice to myself, nor was I nice to anyone else. I was a miserable SOB to be around. I was nervous. I was scared." He's also quoted as saying, there's two quotes from Andrew Luck I have here, "There was an uncertainty and apprehension. I was scared in my core, in my insides, I should say. There was a time I was very scared about football and about my place in football." So this is Andrew Luck, recently retired quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. And he retired due to physical health issues, but also due to mental health issues, as he was just trying to overcome certain serious injuries over and over again. With the public eye, obviously, if you're the quarterback of a team, especially a team like the Colts that have a rich history of quarterback play with Johnny Unitas and Peyton Manning and, you name it, Andrew Luck felt the pressure to keep up that tradition of great quarterback play. And you can't do that when you're on the sidelines hurt with kidney issues and things like that, right? So he felt that pressure, and sometimes, regardless of how much money you make, your mental health is priceless. And Andrew Luck is a good example of that. That sometimes you have to walk away from something that you love, something that can be very financially lucrative, even, in order to have sanity in your life and peace in your life. So Andrew Luck stepped away from football, and he continues to be someone who speaks out about mental health. So more power to him. Next, we have Brandon Marshall. Brandon Marshall played for a bunch of different teams. He was a wide receiver with the Denver Broncos, New York Jets, Seattle Seahawks. He's quoted as saying, "I spent 3 months in the outpatient program at McLean, and in my time there, I learned the tools and skills to help me cope with my emotions. I learned different meditation techniques, and I spoke with doctors and counselors about what I was feeling to get a better understanding of where my emotions were coming from and how I could most effectively react and respond to them. Those 3 months changed my life." Now, Brandon Marshall, not one of my favorite players, but one of my favorite people, because he was one of the first to really speak out about men and emotions as far as, football players, recent football players have to go. Now, Brandon Marshall, if you don't know, about 6'4", 235 pounds. He's a giant man, so the general public tends to think of these men as having little to no emotion, just, machines on the football field doing what needs to be done for their teams to be successful themselves. And Brandon Marshall sort of, swam upstream, went against public notion in speaking out quite very publicly, much to the dismay of a lot of people in the National Football League and a lot of his teammates too. He was, I remember, I don't have the quotes here, but he was called soft, he was called volatile, he was sort of called things that would be negative to having him in the locker room. So he was looked at as someone that you might not necessarily want to have in the locker room, even though he was a talented player, all because of the fact that he was so vocal and so outspoken about his own mental health. Again, this is a guy who is just ridiculously successful in what he does, and that doesn't make you immune. It certainly didn't make Brandon Marshall immune to experiencing mental health issues. So this happens to many, many people, regardless of success, regardless of who you are and what you've achieved. Finally, we have Zach Greinke. He's a pitcher pitcher in the MLB. He's bounced around a couple of different teams. And he spoke out about taking psychotropic medication, on taking Zoloft specifically. He's quoted as saying the following: "It hasn't been hard since I started taking the medicine. I don't know if I got lucky or what. I wish I knew about it before. I didn't know there was something for it. I used to read self-help books trying to make myself better." So if you don't know Zach Greinke, he deals with social anxiety. He has dealt with social anxiety for a very long time. I think, all of his recorded history shows that being the case. And he's a pitcher. So when he's on the mound, he is the center of attention. But when he's pitching, he's just doing his thing, and he's able to focus, zone in on what he needs to do without the crowd getting to him. But when people come up to him, say hi to him, and just try to interact with him outside of, the baseball diamond, he gets very anxious, and he's been taking Zoloft for that for some time now, and this is him, being quoted on that. So one of the things about Zach Greinke is that, fans and, society can sometimes be ruthless, and fans especially, in order to get an advantage, a strategic advantage playing whatever sport that they're playing. Here we're talking about baseball. They'll say or yell or chant whatever they'll need to do. So I think it was against the Yankees when Zach Greinke was pitching against the Yankees in New York. A lot of fans were sort of, yelling out and making fun of his social anxiety in order to be able to get into his head so that he'd pitch poorly, and then obviously the Yankee batters would then go hit home runs off of him or something like that, and then, the Yankees would be able to win. So it's important to note that being outspoken about your mental health as an athlete comes with the added disadvantage of not only just, how the public sees you, but how the public can weaponize that against you. So they'll come to your basketball games, they'll come to your football games, they'll come to your baseball games, and of course, other sports that I haven't covered here. They'll come and they'll use that in order to get you to play less than what you're capable of playing, to a quality that is less than what you're capable of playing, so that their favorite team can have the upper hand. So I don't know of many other professions where this would be okay, obviously. You obviously can't legislate it out of the game. You can't police what fans say. So it's something to be aware of. Athletes deal with a lot. I'm not going to say that athletes, don't have a great life. Of course they do. Many of them get paid millions of dollars. So the money is usually there. The status is there. You can walk into anywhere and be recognized and celebrated. So, it's not like a woe is me type of thing when it comes to athletes. But it is important for us to realize that with all of that good comes some added bad that the general public, myself included, might not have to deal with, because I'm not in the public eye and maybe you're not in the public eye either. So you can have a private life. You can do things without being the subject of ridicule. You can get help for your mental health issues and concerns and things like that without other people weaponizing that against you, where your coworker or the other firm across the street is going to use your mental health against you in order to gain an upper hand or a strategic advantage. That's likely not going to happen.